Here's your weather video for this Saturday. It's August 17th. Meteorologist Bill Murray sitting in for Scott Martin, who's out today. I'll be with you again tomorrow, too. Lucky I get to do a twofer this weekend. And it's usually when we got a hurricane in the area, it seems like to me, but I always enjoy talking about the hurricanes. This is Hurricane Ernesto tonight, as I record this a little after 11 p.m. For your consumption on Saturday morning, showing the northern eye wall of the now Category 1 hurricane beginning to impact the archipelago there. The 181 islands that make up the archipelago nation of Bermuda. This is what things look like here just after 11 p.m. Central Time, I guess that would be 1 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, I think. Here's the latest observation. The temperature at LF Wade International Airport has jumped 4 degrees in the last 2 hours. You can tell that warm core is still there. There's the practical representation of it. The relative humidity has been at 100% for the past several hours, meaning the dew point temperature is the same. 77 degrees, dew point 77. Winds out of the east at now 61 miles an hour. That's the strongest sustained wind we've seen there, gusting to 78 miles an hour, visibility less than 1 mile in rain and mist. The ceiling is at 500 feet, overcast. The sea level pressure is down to 990 millibars. We know from the Air Force plane a short time ago, or maybe a couple of hours ago, that the pressure was at 969 millibars. So got a ways to go, but that pressure gradient is the reason that the winds are so strong. But as you can see, they should go into calm conditions here probably within the next 2 to 3 hours. Landfall is going to come when this center is about halfway over land. So it does look like we're going to have a landfalling hurricane on Bermuda. I think there have only been 11 of those since 1850. It's hard to hit that tiny little speck there in the Atlantic. Of course, we had active weather across Alabama on your Friday. Strong to severe thunderstorms formed. Fortunately, they didn't get too out of hand, but they were roaming about and causing lots of torrential rain, some strong wind gusts, and also lots of very dangerous lightning. Severe weather will be possible again today. This is the day 2 from the SPC, but I think it'll look a lot like this. The northern half of Alabama, generally down about as far as Alex City, Montgomery, probably over to Demopolis. Going to see that threat of severe weather. Today, damaging winds is the greatest threat. This is the HRRR convection allowing model, showing those showers and storms moving out of southern Tennessee there. Around 10 a.m. in the northeast Alabama, you'll see some rain, lightning, and thunder in those areas there around 11 noon to noon. And those showers and thunderstorms begin to break out more through eastern Alabama, through the Tennessee Valley, the Huntsville-Decatur area around 3 o'clock. Also over in Anniston, you got some pretty strong thunderstorms moving across Sand Mountain in northeast Alabama, moving toward Gadsden into the I-20 corridor there by 5 p.m. Generally areas from St. Clair County east of Birmingham over to the Georgia border. Some trailing back into the Birmingham area, moving through the Birmingham metro area there through 6 p.m. Still hanging around 7. You can see the intensity is beginning to drop, though, by 8, 9 o'clock. And as they push further south into South Alabama, the northern half of the state, really the northern 2/3 of the state, it's pretty dry. Can't rule out a stray shower during the late night hours, especially into Sunday morning. And then more showers and storms are going to develop on Sunday. Now, that the day 3 right now, which will be the day 2 by the time you watch this, does show a slight risk for severe weather because if you remember, the risk I showed you just a moment ago was a marginal risk. That's at level 1 out of 5. By Sunday, we may see a level 2 out of 5 across central Alabama, with the front actually beginning to make its move, and some things are going to change. Now, heat advisories are in effect today for the west central parts of Alabama. You can see these heat index values approaching 105, 106 there at Centerville. This is when you're beginning to, run the risk of heat-related illness. And so the Weather Service has those heat advisories in effect for this region right here. We'll watch those through the day. High temperatures, for your Saturday are going to look, going to look like this. Lower 90s, Tennessee Valley, Northeast Alabama, 94 to 96 across, the I-22 and US 280 corridors. And as we get into Sunday, maybe a degree or two cooler, not substantially cooler across any of the area. This is the upper pattern across North America, up at about 18,000 feet, 500 millibars constant pressure altitude, showing a big ridge of high pressure there from New Mexico across Texas. On the backside of that, we've got troughiness over the Great Lakes. There's Ernesto out here moving away from Bermuda. And we've got a northwesterly flow on the backside, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that. But I think it's just going to keep us cooler and drier as we go into the new week. You can see that trough deepening as we go through Sunday, and really closing off, getting quite deep there. The mid-Atlantic up into New England there by Monday night. And Tuesday, the ridge is kind of having a field day out there in the middle of the country, moving to be centered near the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles by Wednesday. The trough, though, is beginning to weaken and fall apart over the eastern United States, and we see the Bermuda High beginning to get its act together again and sort of close off a little closer to the Bahamas. So instead of the Bermuda High, we'll have the Bahamas High. But then we'll kind of look at the tropics, just not much happening as we go beyond Ernesto. Now we're out in week 2 here. This is Monday the 26th, and showing ridging over much of the United States. Looks like some sort of system there across the southeastern United States coming out of the western Atlantic, maybe into Florida. Some lowered pressures there across the northern Gulf Coast. That'll be something to watch as we get into the Labor Day weekend. And you see that ridging right there just to the east of Florida. The GFS is our model of choice today, showing those showers and thunderstorms developing ahead of that kind of weak frontal boundary that's lying in this area. It's just going to kind of lay around the area today and tomorrow. You see showers and thunderstorms developing both days, but by Monday, they're conspicuously absent. Monday night looks like a beautiful night. We'll see overnight readings in the 60s, especially over the northern third of Alabama. High temperatures on Monday probably not going to get out of the 80s, and we'll take that. Looking for 87 for the daytime high on Tuesday. How about 64 Tuesday morning? Maybe even 62 Wednesday morning. Those are readings for Birmingham. So you could see 50s across North Alabama. That would be just great. But Tuesday we're dry. Wednesday we're dry. You see maybe a few showers showing up Thursday. I took them out of the forecast, but I might have to leave them there. I left the showers in there for Friday, but, chance looks fairly low. Saturday, Sunday, don't look too wet. We get out into the week 2 period. Unfortunately, we don't see much in the way of rain. As we're moving into the Labor Day weekend, we see those rain chances begin to go up, though. So that will be interesting. This is the H Wharf, kind of showing the positioning of Ernesto early on Saturday morning. They're very near Bermuda. We'll take it through time. The system is weakening. It'll probably become a tropical storm later today. It could re-strengthen into a hurricane, though, as it sort of it begins to interact with the trough to its north. Sometimes that can lead to better evacuation of the air around the center, and we could see some strengthening. The H wharf has it by Sunday afternoon back up to about 90 knots. So, that would be back definitely in Category 1 status. It even gets a little stronger, but it takes it well to the east of the Canadian Maritimes, Atlantic Canada, even I guess this would be Sable Island, right? The graveyard of the Atlantic. But it is well to the east of Cape Race, St. John's, and Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, and it is heading on up. Well, I say that. Let's say I may be just misreading this completely. Yeah, let's kind of get a better picture here. What I'm talking about. This is moving in closer to Newfoundland. Those areas right there in southeastern Newfoundland, the Avalon Peninsula, there around St. John's, they could have an impact Monday night. And, these winds are pretty strong, 70 miles an hour, right on the coast, 70 knots. And that would be 85. Well, no, I'm sorry. Those are 10-meter wind speeds in miles per hour. So, 70 miles per hour. Tropical storm source winds, could be impacting that area, and then it's moving on off. But we'll be cleaning up around Bermuda later today. Well, I guess, they're probably going to deal with tropical storm force gusts. Good bit of the day. Hurricane force, gusts probably continuing through about 10 a.m. Tropical storm or strong tropical storm or storm force winds till about 2 p.m. Atlantic time. Well, I guess actually Central time by my, penciling out, the pretty big wind field that is accompanying Ernesto. And that means that, they're probably going to have tropical storm force gusts until well into the evening. So it may be Sunday before they really get to clean up. This is GFS, showing the system pinwheeling to the north there. You see slowly weakening, but maybe intensifying again. Sort of like what the H-Wharf was showing. You see the front coming off the east coast. Here we see it passing Nova Scotia, but threatening the southeastern portion of Newfoundland. There, the Avalon Peninsula, and moving off very consistent with the H-Wharf. But now we're out into week 2 here, and there is just nothing developing across the tropical Atlantic. And this is sort of the the opposite of all the hype that we've seen with the hurricane season. The very warm waters and the low shear, so far have been fairly offset by the dry air. And so we've been really fortunate. Let's just keep it that way. This is through Labor Day. Well, I'm moving one slide too far. But as we go out to the Labor Day weekend, we begin to see nothing still in the Atlantic, and that's really prime time. Closer to home, rainfall totals off of the GFS ensembles. The mean off the ensemble showing around 1 inch over the next 2 weeks. That's not great. We'll take anything we can get, but rainfall, it's kind of lucky we had good rainfall over the last few weeks, but we're getting dry again. And, we really could use the rain. Temperatures, definitely the messaging is the temperature is going to be cooling off. 94 today, 94 on Sunday. Then back into the 80s. Our coolest day probably comes on Tuesday. Our coolest morning comes on Wednesday when we could be at as low as 62. Those normally colder locations in North Alabama will be experiencing 50s, and we'll take that. But then we're getting into sort of a sing-song pattern with highs in the upper 80s and lows in the upper 60s through the end of the week, into the weekend, and then looks like we'll be warming up a bit as we go into the week 2 period. Well, that's your weather look. We'll be visiting on Monday night with Alan Seals, our old friend. We're going to talk about famous African-American meteorologists in our industry, going back to June Bacon Bursey, and fabulous meteorologists who were pioneers, and of course Alan is a great example of a tremendous meteorologist. Recently retired in Mobile, but a really great friend of our podcast, and always fun to have on the show. And we'll go back and look at some incredible history on Monday night on Weather Brains, the weekly netcast that is all about weather. Well, that's your weather video for this Saturday, the 17th. Of course, this is the anniversary of Hurricane Camille. Occurred on this date, made landfall near Pass Christian, Mississippi, back on this date in 1969. As one of the only Category 5 hurricanes to the United States. What are we now? We've only had 3. That was a very, very terrible hurricane, and one that will be remembered forever along the north central Gulf Coast. And on this morning, back some, 30, what would that be, 55 years ago, the hurricane was on the move to the west. It had been expected to hit the Florida Panhandle. A lot of folks went to bed very nervously, listening to the radio, and woke up to hurricane warnings being shifted frantically back to the west, first to Mobile and then to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And, of course, that's where it eventually made landfall on that Sunday night, August the 17th. Back in 1969. Well, check out the blog today. I'll have notes on the blog about Ernesto, updates on the forecast. We'll have a complete look on Alabama's weather coming up at noon, and we'll start covering any showers and thunderstorms that develop, and any of those that become strong to severe. We'll be talking about those. Jen Nairmore will be covering Ernesto this morning and covering things up there about 2 o'clock. I'll cover things after that, and I'll be back here tonight on Saturday night, Sunday morning, to deliver another weather briefing video just for you until I get that chance. As I always tell you, keep an eye to the sky, because you'll always have something fun to look at, including a supermoon, blue moon on Monday.